Okay, ladies and gentlemen, test over topic 3 is tomorrow. And for those of you who were not here today to do the review, or for those of you who just need a little extra review, I'll go over the extended response questions that are going to be on tomorrow's test. The first one here, describe one problem brought on by each of the following: industrial capitalism, urbanization, and political corruption. Explain one action taken by progressive reformers or political leaders to address each of these problems. So this is going to be a 3x3. You're going to have 3 things you need to identify, and you're going to need to do 3 things with them. So I've put the categories down there underneath. Industrialization or industrial capitalism basically means industrialization in big business. Urbanization means the growth of cities, and political corruption, of course, means political corruption, corrupt government problems. These are all things that you would have covered in topic 2. So we're just taking it to the next step in topic 3. We looked at the problems caused by industrialization. Topic 3, we're going to look at ways that progressive reformers and political leaders attempted to fix those problems. So for each of these, you're going to pick one problem or action and figure out what the problem was, what action they took, and explain what that action was. So I'm going to give you some examples of actions that were taken in each category. So industrialization and big business problems could be a lot of different things like child labor, monopolies, the unsafe work environments, that sort of thing. So what you're going to look for are what are some examples of actions taken by progressives to address these. And all of these categories you can find in lessons 2 and lessons 5. Okay, so if, for example, you're talking about monopolies as being a problem, the Clayton Antitrust Act would be an example of an action taken. They used this law to break up those monopolies. Monopolies were a problem because they were unfair business practice. Clayton Antitrust Act breaks them up. If you talk about child labor, you could say mandatory public schooling. Okay, and that's because if you're required to be in school by law, you can't be working in the factories or someplace like the mines. If you want to talk about pollution, so we can look at some of the conservation efforts like National Forestry Service. Okay. If you want to talk about the problems of dangerous products being created because we are of industrialization, the Meat Inspection Act will work for that one, right? So what you need to do is pick one. Okay, you only need one of these, one problem, one action taken, and here I've given you examples of actions and explain what it did, right? What did the Meat Inspection Act do? What did the Clayton Antitrust Act do? Whatever. You only need one from that category. Same goes with the growth of cities. Problems are going to be pretty generic to the problems of cities. Pollution, overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, the tenements, how bad the tenements were. So we want to come up with what are some actions that were taken to address the problem. So don't forget to include the problem in your answer, but also what are some actions taken to address the problem. So building codes would fit in here. The YMCA as a way for people to take classes, participate in sports who live in cities. This is made specifically to deal with city problems. Settlement houses, such as Hull House, if you want a specific example, would be another one. Sanitation services, hiring people, the government hiring people to clean up the streets, to pick up garbage, all that stuff. These are all progressive reforms. Again, pick one from this, tell me what the problem was, the action, and what it actually did. And then lastly here for political corruption, if you just look in lesson 2 at the bottom, there are a bunch of different election reforms that you can choose from. So 17th Amendment, making it so people vote for their senators instead of their state governments. They have more control over who's in the government. Things like the referendum, giving them power over that. Ooh, sorry, I had to pause. I had a tickle in my throat. I had to cough. But the referendum giving them the authority to disprove laws. So the people have more direct control. Secret ballots, or the secret ballot, so that people can't intimidate you into voting for a specific person because they don't know how you're voting. Okay? So I'll put that up full screen for you really quick. You can pause this. Remember, one from here, one from here, one from here. So you only need one from each category. Explain the problem, the action, which is what I just brainstormed there for you, and then explain what it is. So it's not enough to tell me the Clayton Antitrust Act. Tell me what the Clayton Antitrust Act did. Okay? All right. The second one asks you to identify 3 groups that organize to promote the rights of women and or minority groups. These can be religious, ethnic, or racial minorities in the early 20th century, and describe the actions that they took to achieve their goal and evaluate the success of each. So I'm asking you to identify 3 things. Whenever I ask you for 3 examples, you're going to do 3 things with each example, 3 by 3. That's the case with this one as well. These are from lessons 3 and 4. So if you look at graphic organizers for lesson 3 and 4, there are a bunch of different groups identified. So the first thing you need to do is identify 3 groups, and then for each one, tell me what they did. What actions did they take to promote women's rights, or African American rights, or Mexican American rights, or Jewish people's rights, or whatever, and then evaluate the success. So this would just be what did they do? And in this category, you're just going to say, would you consider them successful? What were their successes? What were their accomplishments? Might be another way of looking at this. All right. So let's brainstorm a few of the groups from lessons 3 and 4. The National American Women's Suffrage Association for women's rights, the NAACP for particularly African Americans, but people of color in general, the National Women's Party, NWP, will fit in here, the Urban League, the Anti-Defamation League, focusing more on Jewish rights, the Mutualistas, in my American accent. All of these, any of these can be used. You need 3, right? Notice you're looking for 3 up here. You need 3 of those. So I'll put that up big so you can see. So you will pick 3 of these, and for each one, tell me what they did and what their accomplishments were, or whether they were successful, or something to that effect for each one. So for example, NASA pushed for laws to protect women's right to vote, and an amendment protecting women's right to vote. Remember, that's what suffrage means. It has nothing to do with suffering. Suffrage means the right to vote. Were they successful? I would say so. The 19th Amendment would be an example of that. All right, tomorrow you're going to do it for real, and make sure you are prepared. See you then, and good luck.